What up? We just left the Home Depot. It is day job time. We are here on a beautiful, gray, disgusting New England Monday morning. About to go run some trim in a couple bathrooms. And yesterday we did the Lee Outlet show in Lee, Mass, and it was great. Honestly, surprisingly awesome for a Sunday show. I sold more sealed products than I have at any other show, which I was super surprised about because Saturday we didn't sell pretty much any sealed. So I'll take it. Anyway, just doing our second video here, driving around in between picking up materials for the day job, and figured I'd do another video. So today I figured I'd talk about something that if you're into economics, you have heard the debates about, and I think it's super related to Pokemon cards and why Pokemon cards have value. And that is different theories of value. So there are theories of value, let's say there's competing ones. And one of them is the labor theory of value. And that one is, in my opinion, my humble opinion as a not economist, makes no sense, because that theory of value, the labor theory of value, says that value is determined by how much labor is input into a certain thing. The problem with that is we all know that some things are very valuable even though barely any labor goes into them, barely any effort goes into it. And some things are completely worthless, even though much labor was put into them. For instance, if I put a ton of labor into digging a hole in my backyard, and I spend years digging a gigantic hole in my backyard, I'm going to put lots and lots of labor into it, lots of hours of labor into digging, and at the end of that, I will have subtracted value from my property. Nobody is going to pay me more for my house with a gigantic hole in the backyard. It's just not going to happen. There is no added value by the labor. So just one example like that kind of blows the entire theory out of the water. All right, so debunked labor theory of value. RIP. Now, the other theory of value, the one that I subscribe to, and if you're an Austrian econ bro or a Bitcoiner, you're probably familiar with it, is subjective theory of value. What's subjective theory of value? Subjective theory of value says that value is subjective, aka people, individuals, decide what they think things are worth. Here's an example. How much effort, how much labor does it take to print Pokemon cards? I mean, of course, there's infrastructure involved. There's the machines that print it, there's distributors, there's artists you pay, there's IP, there's all this stuff. So, of course, there is, infrastructure around what goes into it. So I don't want to discount that. That is something. But once all that infrastructure is set up, you essentially have a infinite money printing glitch. There is not much labor that goes into making any single Pokemon card, yet they do, some of them command high values? What makes some command high values compared to others? Even though, I mean, not separating for like textured versus non-textured, but okay, just stick to textured. Some textured cards are insanely valuable. Some are next to worthless. What differentiates these two things? Well, what differentiates them is individuals deciding, I want this one and not that one. I want this one a lot more than I want that one. And so, that's what differentiates things, is people's, individuals, but multiple individuals at least, believing that something has value. Now, why does that apply to my video yesterday? Well, why do dollars have value? US dollars, why do they have value? They're just pieces of paper, right? Well, dollars have value because we all believe subjectively, individually, that they have value. That's what makes them valuable. That's what makes them operate as our currency. If we all believed that they were worthless, we'd use them as tinder for starting fires. We'd use them as toilet paper. We'd use them for not currency. And conversely, Pokemon cards, not even conversely, it's the same exact thing with cards, with collectibles in general. Some things do have value, some things don't have value, and people's opinions of these things, their subjective opinions, change over time. In the 90s, people thought Beanie Babies had value. Not so much now. So, subjective theory of value says that it's individuals that decide what they value. And in different circumstances, those evaluations will change. For instance, if you're in a desert and you haven't had anything to drink all day, a cup of water is like probably, aside from like an airlift out of the desert, is probably like the most valuable thing you could have. Whereas if you are stuck in the middle of a freshwater, drinkable water, for the sake of the argument, lake, and you don't have a paddle, cup of water, worthless. So in different circumstances, different things hold value differently depending on the circumstance and the individual. And that's an insight of the Austrian economic, school of economics, and I think they got that one right. And that's why things like Bitcoin are some of the highest rising valuation assets worldwide. Things like Pokemon are some of the highest appreciating assets worldwide, because, in my opinion, people are realizing that the money printer goes burr. And what I mean by that is it's always running. There's always more money being pumped into circulation. And so that means that the amount of dollars in circulation is always rising. The amount of whatever currency is always rising. And so if you have X amount of dollars in the system, and then 10 years later, you have 2X the amount of dollars in circulation, well then, prices, all else being equal, are going to double in dollar denomination. So, if something cost $100 before, it's going to cost $200 before, because now there's twice as many dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services. And other things like Bitcoin, which has a finite supply, it's capped at 21 million, I think. I don't know. I'm not super nerdy about that, but pretty sure it's 21 million. Anyway, so that has a finite supply. That can't be printed to oblivion. That can't be devalued because there's a cap on the limit of, there's a limited supply. And same thing with Pokemon, because people believe that the Pokemon company is not going to print cards to oblivion. They don't believe that the Pokemon company is going to reprint cards, thus devaluing them later on, which is the difference between the collector market in Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. Magic is trying to repair this by doing like numbered special cards in their new sets and stuff, but they've kind of painted themselves into a corner even with that, because now it's like the collectors are only chasing these high-end things that they know won't be reprinted. When, I mean, even the numbered things, like they could just do another print run and say, oh, well, yeah, we said it was a 1 out of 1,000. Yeah, but now we're going to run another 1,000, and now there's going to be a second release in numbered 1,001 to 2,000. So I think people have just subjectively started to believe, or, over the past 5 years have stopped believing that Magic is going to take care of their collector base. Pokemon, they haven't done that. They haven't tarnished their reputation like that. They haven't destroyed their perception in the eyes of the collector market. And the U.S. Treasury has gone the Magic route. They've been the Magic route the whole time since the Fed was created 113 or 12 years ago or whatever. And it took a long time for people to catch on to that. But I do think people have started to catch on to that in higher numbers. And that's why, things like Bitcoin and, in my opinion, things like Pokemon, essentially like these sort of once very fringe asset classes, are now like growing in adoption, and like quite rapidly also. El Salvador is buying Bitcoin for its reserves. Tell me who had that on their bingo card. I don't think you did. So I think there's like big market shifts happening, and people are aware of the scam that is fiat currency, and time's a ticking. So long story short, get your cash out of the mattress, diversify your bonds, as Wu-Tang says, and be aware that, of course, all these investments are risks, but holding dollars is guaranteed downside. No risk at all. Guaranteed downside. So the alternative is something with risk. You have to take a chance if you want to hold on to your accumulated net worth. They're not going to start destroying dollars and making them more scarce. They are going to continue to print money. So, that's the spiel for today. Subjective theory of value, W. Labor theory of value in shambles, TLDR, if you know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and see you soon. Later.